in 2024, our focus is open up new markets and to really keep pushing the scale. How far can we take the tech?
Welcome back, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us once again at smallcapvoice.com. I'm your host, Stuart Smith, and we are once again providing you with an online business briefing to shine a spotlight on some of the freshest and smartest plays out there in the markets today. Now, to that end, we're speaking with today Evan Gappelberg. He's the CEO of ARWY.ai. We'll refer to that company as ARWay throughout the interview. The company's traded on the CSC under the ticker symbol ARWY, on the OTC ARWYF, and on the Frankfurt E65. Evan, welcome. Thanks so much for taking time for us.
Thanks, Stuart. Great to be with you.
Great to have you. You and I have spoken before in the past, and I want to learn a little bit about what happened before we jump into ARway. You know, for those who aren't shareholders that were benefited and blessed by this spin out that you did back in October 2022, we know that the company Nextech 3D AI, formerly Nextech AR Solutions Corp, is still the parent company of ARway. So tell us a little bit about that before we jump into the business model for ARway.
So in October, we spun out ARway as its own public company. We listed it, as you mentioned, on the CSC and the OTCQB, as well as the Frankfurt Exchange. We basically gave our shareholders, the Nextech shareholders, which is the parent company, NEXCF on the OTC and NTAR in Canada, we gave them a stock dividend. And Nextech retained about 50% of the shares outstanding. So ARway is its own public company. It was essentially a business that we acquired in the summer of 2021. It's more of a concept, and we spent a year and a half building that into a product. And now it's in market. It's being widely accepted and adopted, and we really see nothing but blue sky growth opportunities with the launch of the Apple Vision Pro. You look at ARway and you see that it's really a marriage made in heaven, where you have the spatial computing platform being ARway, and then you have this, so that's the software, and then you have Apple's Vision Pro, which is the hardware that allows you to see all the magic of augmented reality and spatial computing, which is, again, what ARway was purpose-built for.
Well, that's perfect. So before we get into that news, and listeners, I encourage you to follow along at the press wire for the company, because in January, there was 3 terrific press releases that jumped out at us here at Small Cap Voice, and that's why we reached back out to Evan. Evan, if you will, let's take a step back, though. Tell us a little bit about the building blocks, the foundation of who is ARway.
So ARway is a team mostly of developers and product people. And so, augmented reality is for a lot of developers become a very, very important part of what they bring for their customers, especially creative agencies, which we do a lot of business with. And essentially, ARway is able to take a floor plan and ingest that and turn it into a spatial map where you can have augmented reality experiences that persist, meaning you go back there the next day or the next week or the next year, and that augmented reality experience is still there. It hasn't moved. And that's really quite special and unique when it comes to the ARway platform. ARway has indoor augmented reality navigation that is becoming really the top product for that platform. That's what everybody kind of seems to gravitate towards. It does a lot more than navigation. It has a whole ad network using augmented reality, and it has the ability for you to launch training videos using augmented reality and all kinds of other features and functionality. But indoor wayfinding, if you think about it, Stuart, sucks, right? Like, nobody's cracked the code. Like, who uses indoor navigation? Nobody. Why? Because it sucks. Who uses outdoor navigation? Everybody. Why? Because Google made it great, right? You can navigate, and GPS kind of takes you to a general area, and everybody kind of uses that with your car. Indoor navigation is what ARway does incredibly well, using augmented reality, spatial computing, AI algorithms, and most importantly, zero hardware.
Mm.
That is the game changer. Right now, if you look at indoor navigation, you have these beacons that are set, basically hardware that sends signals to people's phones inside of a space. They need a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of upfront cost. All of that is leapfrogged with our technology. And so no more indoor navigation needing beacons. We now have the ability to just use our technology, the ARway technology, and get you set up in an indoor space within 24 hours, no cost for hardware, and you don't have to be a programmer. You could set this up in your house, Stuart. You
Mm.
literally can turn your house into an augmented reality wonderland with indoor navigation. Not that you'd probably need it in your house, but the point is that you don't need to be a coder. You don't need to be, anybody that has any special skills. It works really, really well. And the augmented reality piece of it is out of the box, meaning it's templatized. So
Mhm.
you just load your video into the platform, and now all of a sudden there's a giant augmented reality screen in your living room, which, if you look at the Vision Pro, that's what they've been showcasing, these big giant screens. Well, that's what ARway does, actually. It creates that experience inside, your room. It could be in a mall, it could be in a hospital, it could be in an airport. Those are the kinds of customers actually that we're working with today, Stuart, enterprise level customers.
Yeah, and I don't want to bury the lead by not getting into this Apple news as well with the Vision Pro, but I do want to go back because, as you mentioned at the outset, the spin out happened in 2022. So 2023 was a foundational year for
Yeah.
ARWay. As you look back on 2023, as the CEO, what do you see as some of the milestones your company was able to achieve?
Huge amount of milestones. Centimeter precision is one that stands out, meaning being able to navigate somebody to a cup of coffee is huge.
Mhm.
You can't do that with outdoor navigation. Outdoor navigation might take you to a building, to a parking lot, things like that. Indoor navigation needs to be much more precise, right? Because you're walking. And if you end up in the wrong part of a mall, you might have to walk a mile to the other side, right? So, the navigation that we offer actually is precision navigation, centimeter precision. And so that was a huge accomplishment. Also, being able to load a floor plan. So the floor plan used to have to be manually calibrated, and now using AI algorithms, it's able to be automatically calibrated to the right size, which is critically important. So we've released an SDK in 2023. What does that mean? That means that anybody's app can integrate our indoor augmented reality navigation, ARway, into their app seamlessly, effortlessly. You just, install the SDK into your app. So you don't need to use ours. We're basically empowering, anybody that has an app to be able to have this technology built into it for indoor navigation. And so, 2023, as you mentioned, Stuart, foundational year. We also established ourselves in this, really in the early days, to be able to come to market. You do get noticed, and we are getting noticed
Mhm.
by companies. They are contacting us and saying, "Oh, I heard about you guys." And so in the early days, there's only a handful of players, and we actually have the only solution that works in a frictionless way. Again, no code required, no beacons required. All the other platforms that we compete with
Mhm.
have, let's just say, some additional upfront costs or additional time. Sometimes it takes months to set it up. again, ours is right out of the box, easy to use. You're set up in a day. And we also made it extremely affordable so that developers can use the platform and test it and see what it's capable of before they sign up for the more expensive program. So, the adoption in 2023, the adoption has been quite significant. I think we have almost 5,000 spatial maps, which is a big milestone that have been created in 2023. And we see that really mushrooming in 2024 with Apple's Vision Pro and this increased spotlight on spatial computing.
Well, let's jump into it then. Listeners, using those ticker symbols again on this Canadian Stock Exchange ARWY, pull up the news on the OTC ARWYF. In January alone, big news. And it goes back to what you just said, Evan. Being noticed early on is important by who you're working with, because Apple provides you with a massive validation. Let's go back to the first one, January 10th. Here's the headline. ARWay.ai seeing Apple Vision Pro launch stoking demand as it signs multiple new contracts for its augmented reality navigation platform. So that bears the truth to the fruit I was just talking about, which is, you get this one deal and all of a sudden these other deals are going to follow, because it's a big world, but sometimes it's a small world, right? These companies come find you.
Yeah, it's an interesting world, though. I'll say that, where you have an enormous amount of different characters that make it interesting, right? So in the early days with pioneering technology, you have what's called early adopters. And these are actually companies that are willing to take risk. We talk to the innovation department in a lot of the bigger companies. And, those guys are tasked, the guys in the innovation department, with finding the new innovative technologies that are being launched. And that's a lot of the inbound that we get from enterprise customers. And then beyond that, you have agencies, basically creative agencies, that have to be on the forefront of the new technology, or they risk being left behind, right? Because their customers expect them to bring them the latest and greatest tech, right? They don't want to be shown something that's outdated and old. So we have a lot of agencies from all over the globe that are coming in through our front door and saying, hey, we want to sign up. And what's interesting, Stuart, is I'm learning about how the world works. Meaning, as a pioneer, we're seeing what part of the globe the early adopters occupy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite surprising. It's not America. Like, we look at ourselves as like, the frontiersmen and the cowboys or whatever, like, and yet
We're always blazing a trail somewhere, right?
always blazing the trail, right? We have like, these giant tech companies worth trillions of dollars, but when it comes to adoption, we are not leading the charge. I'm not saying we're not there. We're not, adverse, but we're seeing a lot more action, believe it or not, in the Middle East, which, all we read about is the wars and the conflicts. But the reality is that the Middle East has a massive, massive amount of capital, and they are pivoting away from oil. And guess what they're pivoting towards? Technology. They see tech as the future, and they are investing in a big way. And so all of the governments in the Middle East, all of the airports, the cities, they're all being tasked with bring us the latest and greatest technology. And so we're getting a lot of interest from the Middle East. And then after the Middle East, it's Europe. So all over Europe, there's really an initiative to bring new technology. And again, it's really top down. It's like the government funds a lot of this stuff. We have some government grants that were given to universities in Europe, in Germany, that then took that money and gave it to us so that they can access our technology. And so, you just don't see that here. And maybe again, because it's a capitalist society, it's just interesting that over there it's top down, right? Where the governments and the kingdoms or whatever, are
Sure.
kind of saying like, hey, bring us the latest and greatest tech. Whereas here it's kind of like, show me something that could make me money.
Right. Well, another takeaway for me there, though, in that whole segment is that you and your companies, both Nextech and ARWay, are true international players. And again, the press wire tells that story. Here we've got January 23rd, ARWay.ai. The spatial computing platform signs new deal with, who did you just talk about? Saudi Arabian Agency for AR Navigation. So again, and you're talking about Europe, and I'm sure we'll see the Far East come into play here as well for your company. So as we look at 2024 now, moving forward, as the CEO again, what do you see as some of the operational goals you'd like to see your company be able to achieve?
So it's very interesting, Stuart. So, we've spent an enormous amount of time on the technology and making sure it works, which it does. And but there's always like more to build. And so right now, the biggest focus of the team is being able to build almost infinite scale indoor navigation so that you're going from floor to floor to floor in a 50-story building and the indoor navigation is still functioning, so that you're going even below ground on a let's just say an escalator going down, so that it works. Being able to navigate even in subterranean, which it works, because again it's not GPS based. We just got an inbound lead from a huge construction company that literally said, we're building, all over the globe, and we want to have an augmented reality navigation at our construction site. So this is not even a building, this is
Mhm.
like dirt, right? And we want to be able to scan a QR code, have a menu, and then have navigation take the person or the crew to that site. And if you think about that, that's exactly what ARway does. And so construction sites is like another wide open opportunity for us where, if the site's big enough, you have different crews working on different parts of a building with different materials. Sometimes you have, new people coming to visit the building. Maybe it's the bankers, maybe, somebody needs direction. And so our navigation system offers that. So in 2024, we expect to have our technology reach further than ever in this indoor navigation, but also it works outdoors. Like I said, the construction site, like you can't have a navigation system. Like if you think about your construction site, if you were going to use GPS, how would you actually set up your navigation? You can't. There's no
Mm.
custom like GPS. Like you can't just access a satellite, right? Our technology works outdoors and indoors, not just, and again, no GPS. So it really doesn't matter what the weather is. If it's cloudy, it really has no effect on it. But in 2024, our focus is to open up new markets, and to really keep pushing the scale. How far can we take the tech? Right now, we could do about 1 million square feet until you have to scan another QR code, right, to localize.
Mhm.
But you could keep scanning QR codes and keep going
Mhm.
to infinity and beyond. But the goal is in 2024, one QR code. You don't have to keep scanning. And there's some magical new technology that we're working on that's going to allow for that to happen.
That's exciting stuff and a great place for us to end this interview so that we can look forward to the next interview with you, Evan. Once again, viewers, we're speaking with Evan Gappelberg. He is the CEO of not only just ARWay.ai that we're speaking with today or speaking about today, but also Nextech 3D AI. We talked about that at the outset. ARWay was spun out in October of 2022. Obviously, it would have been a great time to be a shareholder, but now's the time to add both these ticker symbols to your watch list. Evan, thanks so much. Any closing thoughts or comments before I let you go?
Yeah, thank you, Stuart. I would just say that, in the early days with these startup companies, you have an opportunity not to make 10x, but to make 100x on your investment because it is early, which means there's going to be bump in the roads. Things always take longer and cost more money. But when you do actually break through, you do have something quite special and quite unique. And we've done it before. And ARway, I think, and even Nextech are positioned perfectly to capitalize on these mega trends. And, when you're in the same room as Apple, they do cast a big shadow, and that's not a bad thing. And so we're kind of in Apple's wake, the Vision Pro's wake. And when you're in, a multi-trillion-dollar company's wake, or even the biggest technology company's wake, it does pay dividends for the little companies. And so, something to think about when you're analyzing is, well, who's going to break this out? Well, it's not actually going to be us. It's actually going to be Apple that's going to break it out, and we're going to benefit because we're in Apple's wake.
Yeah, that's exciting. It really is. And again, as you pointed out earlier, because of that shadow, because of the boats rising up around Apple, you've gotten another one. ARWay.ai spatial computing platform continues to see increased demand ahead of Apple Vision Pro release, signs new deal with F3 Geomatic. That one was out dateline January 17th. Evan, again, wonderful speaking with you again. Thanks for making time for us here today at Small Cap Voice.
Thank you, Stuart, for having me.
Absolutely. For Evan Gappelberg, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for tuning in. But before you go, smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, and thank you so much for tuning in today.